one. Moving on to the summary for the Devil's Chord.
All right, let me bring up the stopwatch again. We reset it. Ready to go whenever you are.
Yep,
Oh,
I'm
go.
ready. Okay, in 1925, a music teacher manages to discover the titular Devil's Chord. With
Mic
playing it,
off.
only managing to summon an interdimensional being called the Maestro, who it later turns out is a child of the toy maker. The focus this time being music instead of games. Ruby and the Doctor come into play for this by Ruby deciding she wants the Doctor to take her back to 1963 to watch the Beatles recording their first album. When they start to watch them record, though, and anyone else they decide to watch in on after the fact, the musical's all wrong as the world has seemingly lost its taste for music, with this having apparently started back in 1925 when the Maestro first showed up. The Doctor gets Ruby to play a song on a piano on the roof of the EMI Recording Studios building, only for it to eventually summon the Maestro, who manages to track them down after the two evade them for a while. Also being distracted or at least almost finds them, but then is distracted by someone else playing music, so they go off to kill that person, or at least steal that person's music.
It's Dev. This is Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Sweet little
Eventually,
old lady got murdered.
Eventually, the Doctor takes Ruby into the present to show her what will happen if they don't stop the Maestro. But unlike in Pyramids of Mars, the Maestro shows up to taunt them, managing to mess with the TARDIS by finding the frequency it resonates at, until the Doctor managed to wrestle back control by yanking things out and possibly rebooting the TARDIS. Once back in 1963, having realized while they were in the messed up present that there must be rules, same as a toy maker, and that there must be a set of notes that can send the Maestro back to where they came from. The Doctor tries and fails to find the right notes ultimately, with Ruby and the Doctor both being captured and imprisoned in different instruments. As well as that, the Maestro tries to take the song of her soul from Ruby, only for it to not work because of overarching mystery box stuff, and gives up on trying to do that. So after having captured them, Paul McCartney and John Lennon find the piano that the Doctor was using to find the right notes, and the two manage to complete the sequence, banishing the Maestro, who, before leaving, manages to scream out about the one who waits to get some more foreshadowing in. We then end on a musical number, which has been explained in hindsight by the rush of all the music in the world coming back at once. And the Doctor and Ruby playing the Abbey Road Zebra Crossing like a piano before we end the episode. Done.
Mic
All right.
on.
Let's take a look at this. Bring up the window capture. And that was 3 minutes, 20 seconds, and 35 microseconds.
Thankfully, I'm keeping these under 5 minutes, given there's 3 of them. I've got to get through. So, moving on to favorite overall aspects. First, we'll start with Bill's. He's put down, they remembered that Ruby is a musician. This means RTD gets more points than all of Mel's writers combined.
Wah, wah, wah.
And to be honest, as much as I don't like harping on Chibnall, but, you know, Yaz was a cop. Ryan had dyspraxia. Both of those rarely came up.
As a matter of fact, if anything, very often it seemed that Yaz was not even good at her job, even though she was supposedly good when she was at her job. So shrug. I don't get it.
In any case, moving on from that to Aaron, your favorite overall aspect of Devil's Chord.
See here. I actually see. I know it's kind of controversial, but I actually enjoyed the Maestro.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I felt like they felt like a musical Pennywise, to be honest. Which is
Yeah.
it was they came off as creepy when they needed to be. They were intimidating when they needed to be, and they were kind of goofy and fun. So they kind of hit
Mm.
all this to put it in music wise. They hit all the notes they needed to for that character. So I thought the acting was very good. And yeah, it was hammy, but I kind of like those types of characters, and it's also the offspring of another kind of quirky, crazy villain, the Toymaker. So it makes sense that they're kind of a
Mm.
little off the wall, a little different, you
Yeah.
know, flamboyant and everything too. Because the Neil Patrick Harris's Toymaker was pretty flamboyant as well.
Mm. Like, I definitely enjoyed Jinx Monsoon's portrayal.
Mm-hmm.
But I can also very easily, especially when it was pointed out by a review I did watch in the interim, why some people might not, because as was pointed out by a YouTuber I watch, um, Jinx Monsoon comes from the school of drag where you start at 11 and you stay there.
Mm.
So it's
Yeah,
always at 11. So
Mm-hmm.
it can potentially, I can see why that would
it
potentially
that's
grade on some people.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's
Oh
why I
yeah.
have to say I sadly agree with the other party. It really degraded on me. I'm like, this character could be really good if you just stop being so obnoxious
Like tone it down a
about
little
it.
bit, be a little bit more
Like,
subtle when it
can
need
we
to be.
bring it down to at least a 9 for like half a second?
It
For the
is
love
an
of
Yeah.
God.
exhausting.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
mm,
It is an exhausting
It's
performance.
yeah, and I
yeah.
understand the character and I understand what they're doing with the character, but don't be at 11 the entire gobsmacking time. Even the toy maker
Oh.
brought down a little bit now and again,
Mm,
shook things up a little bit, did something a little different now and here and now. Never
mm,
was he completely like an absolute 11 obnoxious thing all the time. Again, they even had rules, which this one tried to break or tried to hide.
mm.
Oh, yep,
Uh,
that's
But
my
yeah.
thing. So,
yeah, that being said, Matt's favorite overall aspect.
My favorite overall aspect, um, honestly, just the message of what music can be for people.
mm-hmm.
Mm,
Um, right
Mic
now,
off.
matter of fact, I'm experiencing a little bit of a euphoria right now myself. I got my new car that's up and running since Wednesday. One of the best things I accidentally found out about is the sound system in that son of a gun. I have been bringing CDs to work so I can listen to them on the way home and back. On the way to
mm,
work and back home. Because I can clear a CD in about half an hour.
mm.
I accidentally happened upon it as I was listening to the radio. I'm like, oh, if I got a decent classic rock station crank, what? What are these speakers in here? Okay, I need to. And I was like, okay, yeah, I was already going to stop at Walmart to try and get a few things. I'm going to see what I can find for a music CD to listen to on the way home. I found the original first album from Boston.
Mm.
I cranked that son of a gun. I believe it was a long time was playing as I hit the pedal to the metal on my way out of town. Suddenly realized, oh, I'm going a little bit fast. Quickly hit the brake as I stopped for a red light. And like 3 seconds later, a police patrol vehicle pulls up next to me. No lights or anything. I'm just like, oh, hi, officers. And as soon as the lights changed green, they zipped way faster than me, and I'm like, oh, thank goodness, they must have been on their way to something else. Just not an immediate emergency. Oh, thank God. I am not their target.
Mic
Although I
on.
bet you they were eyeing me for a moment.
They may have gotten a call and been like, I can't play
Yeah,
with you.
they were probably like the secondary group to call in or something. Yeah.
Mm.
Like I said, not an emergency yet because the lights weren't going, but they were on their way. Very much on their way. I believe in the area I was at, the speed limit was 45. They had to have been doing at least 60. I'm like, oh. But yeah, the music can affect you
Mic off.
such a huge way, and to have a world where suddenly music is just gone. Ah. Yeah. So that's my thoughts on the general overall good thing. The big musical message
Mm.
and why it's important.
Mm. Ooh, let's see. I guess I'll just generally go for, because it's more of a recurring thing rather than um a specific scene. I'll just go for like the general. You know, I'll go for like the maestro in the sense of the threat being played as it is, because like the doctor is just shitting himself.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mic on.
Mm-hmm.
basically the whole story. Like there's a
Yeah.
bit where like the maestro shouts at him and he actually like flinches. And I'm like, yes, more of this, please. None of
Mhm.
this fucking standing up in front of godlike entities and like being like, oh yeah, fuck you. I've dealt with this before. I'm good. It's like
Mhm.
it sells the threat more if the doctor is actually somewhat scared. Like especially makes sense in this case because we are just coming off the toy maker fairly recently. But, you know, it is nice when the doctor is like has some level of fear about, oh shit, this is way beyond me.
The doctor remembering that there are godlike beings out there, and they are a bit beyond his pay grade unless he's got some backup.
Okay, so moving on to least favorite aspects overall, starting with Bill. Russell, I can't portray any disabled people as evil because of the evil cripple trope. Davies is over here continuing to double down on queer-coded villains right here in front of my elote. We've had
I
two
thought about that
scenes.
earlier too.
We've had 2 scenes in the past 6 episodes focusing on correcting pronouns, and both were evil non-binary characters. Not doing a good job of avoiding villainizing a group of people that a lot of people hate anyway. I will elaborate my thoughts on that when we get to scenes. But it is annoying that we're getting this kind of thing continuing. That being said, it's funny because like it only bugs me because he bother to do the pronouns stuff. It's like this is an entity from another universe in this case. Like a different plane of existence. Don't like I am, I'm queer. I'm a fucking, massive lefty. But I did not need to have the pronoun scene in this. Like with the meep, I was fine with it because it was like, okay, we're establishing that the meep just goes by the meep and that's it. Fair enough. But this it made less sense. The meep it made sense because there was a trans person involved in that scene. So it made sense for the trans person to point that out. That I let slide. That was fine. This, it's the 1920s when that happens. So it's like, I don't know. Like that whole scene did kind of bug me, but we'll get to that when we get to what scene. So moving on from that, Aaron, what was
What?
your least favorite overall aspect?
Um. I'm gonna say I wrote down like the other side of the Maestro thing being over the top, but the Maestro character being over the top. Um, but I think there's something else that I want to say, but I can't think of it right now. Like, I can't put it into words, but
Mm.
I'm gonna say that I actually didn't like the singing and all the music throughout the serial. It came off as I don't really like musical episodes. Like, I just got through the second season of Strange New Worlds, and there was a musical episode in that as well.
Ah.
So, the spoiler alert: there's a musical episode in that as well. And
Yeah.
I think it takes me out of the show. Honestly, I
Mm.
think it does.
I,
Now, a
I,
show
I think
about
it
music?
depends on how you do it, but yeah, there's a lot of ways you
Mm.
can fail at this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like this, and I'll get down to my least favorite scene, but yeah, I've got a few written down. But
Mm. Yeah.
yeah,
Like,
I didn't like it. I didn't like the music. The thing about music was fine with them, putting out boring music and stuff like that. But
mm.
like, yeah, I don't know. And I liked Ruby's song, kind
Yeah.
of, because that made sense. She's being held captive, and like she's like fighting for her life, and so she kind of sings, the song that was like around that time when she was abandoned. Kind
Mm.
of, yeah.
Yeah, it's very much like Church on Ruby Road. The idea is that the goblins, like, I don't think it was that they could only speak in song, but there was
Mic
like
off.
there was a
Mic
there
on.
was a reason, there was kind of a logic to it, and it was like aftermath of the toy maker still, so there was still a bit of that kind of energy lingering. This, it's like, because it's not a musical throughout, it does seem a bit weird
Mm-hmm.
that there is kind of like, again, like I added it into the summary that apparently it has been explained by Russell that the idea is the music coming back at once is why everyone breaks into song. It's just kind of an after effect of the maestro being banished.
Mm.
Sort of like how the toy maker being banished, there was still lingering energy, so they could do the two TARDISes thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, it is still kind of a. I mean, I'll put it this way: I'll take this over Last Chance to Learn.
Oh. I'd have some arguments about that at the end here.
Mic off.
But yeah. In any case, Matt, or least favorite overall aspect.
Least favorite overall aspect, again, I have to say, as much as I wanted to enjoy the character of the Maestro, the hamminess was just so potent that I literally had to rely on everyone else to up the ante to try and keep interested in the story, which thank God they did it and they did it well. But every time Maestro's on, I just like, okay, we got the glorious hammy in the scenery again. What now?
Mm,
Mic on.
yeah. Again, that's
Mhm.
fair enough. It's definitely one of
Yeah.
those. It's
Um,
definitely one of those things where, like, I absolutely get why people would not be a fan of that performance
But
because it
Yeah.
is
then to
very.
sprinkle on top of it the fact that the maestro's attacking people with these comically animated musical note things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be the threat,
Mm. Yeah. That.
and then when the Beatles see these notes hanging over the piano, they don't immediately go, "What the fuck is this?" and run away.
The music's alive. Oh shit.
I mean, to be fair, it was the '60s. Maybe they were high.
I'll be
And then I
honest.
got
I could
high.
probably I maybe watching this episode twice was enough for me. Like I don't know if I could
Mm.
repeatedly watch this episode because I do agree that while I like the Maestro as a villain, I don't know if I could continually watch them be a villain
Take
constantly.
that being the villain. Yeah,
Mm.
there's no way you could have
Yeah.
a season of the maestro to not be just like,
Just be like, oh god.
I think I've had
Mm.
enough.
Mhm.
Yeah.
a little bit goes a long way. So
Mm.
Yeah, for me, for worst overall aspect, I literally just wrote it down, so I'm just gonna read it out. At least the note I wrote to work off of. Why is this the second episode?
oh yeah, that's true.
We went from Space Babies to Child of the fucking Toy Maker. Like, that's a leap in threat level.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would have either A, reversed the order and had this first, so it's like right out the gate, big swing, massive villain, and then Space Babies to be a little lighthearted before getting into Boom, which is a bit darker. Like that kind of would have made sense, but having this second is such a weird choice. Like, I don't know. I feel like this should have either been later, unless the idea is the payoff at the end of the season is going to be the one who waits, so we had to establish this early. But then again, that's why I suggest this probably should have been first, and then Space Baby second. So yeah, I don't really get the logic behind that ordering in episodes, because like Space Babies probably would. I mean, to a point,
Mic
like I
on.
definitely remember some people saying that they're glad that both of these came out at the same time because they preferred Devil's Chord to Space Babies. But yeah, like I would have preferred the order be switched. But in any case, moving on to favorite scenes. And Bill's is the Beatles beating the Maestro. It fits so much more than the Doctor doing it. It changed the message from the Doctor always wins to you can rekindle the music in someone's heart and lead them to accomplish great things. Yeah, I absolutely preferred the fact that it was. I mean, for one thing, it justified the Beatles being present at all.
Yeah.
And it also just made more sense that actual musicians would do that, would manage to do it, rather than, because it was a musician that summoned the maestro, so it makes sense that it would be musicians that banish the maestro as well. So yeah, Aaron, favorite scene.
My favorite scene is going to be the maestro playing the intro on the piano. Like I thought that was a fun. That was a
Yeah.
fun
That
fourth
was actually
wall
a fun
break.
start. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
The
like, oh,
the
this is
like
kind of cool.
Yeah, I will admit the only issue I had with that is that I really wish they'd fully committed and a full piano cover of the Doctor Who theme had just been the
It's
theme for the episode
That would have
to
been
be
cool
fair
too.
rather than
though,
the
it's
normal one.
too advanced of a scene. Actually, I would have just loved to have a full orchestral version instead of all the synthesizer going back to the usual synthesizers and everything. Just to hit the note head nail on the head to keep playing piano, maybe even multiple pianos or a little bit of symphony backing.
Well, they do have a symphony, so it would have made sense if
Yeah,
they
yeah.
had
It
the
like
symphony.
it cuts. Yeah, it does cut back into like what the current Doctor Who theme is, and I was just like, oh, I almost kind of wish it was just like fully played out on piano for just this once, because that would have been kind of fun. In any case, Matt, favorite scene.
Favorite scene. Gosh, there's actually a couple of good ones. Despite my complaints about the main villain, there's actually a lot of actually interesting moments that played out throughout this episode. Just wish they were the rule, not the exception, half the time. I'm trying to make my brain settle on one of them right now. I think we already covered the Ruby playing, I believe. Someone brought that up, or
To
was
a
that
point.
something else
To a
earlier?
point. I think that was an aspect.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
Otherwise,
that was just Bill's like general
oh,
overall thing was yay he remembered that she's a musician.
Yeah.
um, Um, as much as I want to go with Gotcha's acting when trying to react to the fact that another deity-like evil thing is after him, that would be more of a follow-up. I would actually have to say, um, the acting from the actors that we got as the Beatles.
Hmm.
They don't all necessarily look the part, although I will say, the one that they got to play, oh,
John Lennon or Paul
Lennon was pretty
McCartney.
good, but Paul
Yeah.
McCartney nailed it from me.
Hmm.
Like big time. He was really good.
See, I thought the guy who played John Lennon, was good too.
Maybe I just haven't seen enough of the older pictures of him, but he looked pretty good, but not as much as the Paul
Mm.
actor for me. But both of them in their dialogues with different characters really hit home as well when they got some extra time to talk.
Mm.
But in particular, though, the scene when they are sitting down with Paul McCartney's character and his desire to literally find this bit of music that's in him that he can't seem to let out, and then just talking about suddenly bringing up the villain
Yeah.
and then causing them to freak out and walk away. That was some like intensely good acting, and I could definitely see that coming out of them if they were in that kind of situation.
Mm.
That's something that would mesh with that particular musician's character.
Mm.
But yeah.
Yep. So you know what? I'm gonna cheat and I'm gonna do two because I'm going last.
Okay.
So first, I just for the note that I gave, I just labeled it as I'm from 1980 because again, I made the Pyramids of Mars reference during the summary because it's
Mic
effectively
off.
a similar scene just expanded, where it's like I'll take you to the then present that I picked you up from and show you this is what happens if we do not stop this. Because Millie Gibson sells the hell out of that.
Mm.
And it is generally nice that the maestro, unlike Sutek, shows up and taunts them as well. Because they're a kind of entity that can manage that. You could maybe make an argument that Sutek probably couldn't have, even despite being a high level kind of character, but it with an entity related to the toy maker, it makes sense that they could jump forward and taunt them. Or that actually no, I think it's not even that they jump forward. I think it's even just that like they're just still around.
Mic on.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like they are like, "Oh yeah, that's right. You were there in the 60s, weren't you?"
Mm-hmm.
So that's actually really nice. And also because it didn't get mentioned, I'm also going to mention the scene where the Doctor uses the sonic to block out all sound within a certain radius.
Oh, mm-hmm. That was a
And
really
just,
good moment too.
yeah, like just absolute dead silent, no music, no nothing. And like the maestro eventually overcomes it, but it's just that is a really well done scene. So moving on from that to
Mic
worst
off.
or least favorite scenes. Starting with Bill. Seems we're going with the elephant in the room right off the bat. The musical number at the end. It would be one thing if people were
Oh,
forced
God damn it, Bill!
Mic on.
It'd be one thing if people were forced to sing in the maestro's presence, or there was a lot of connection to musical theater in this. There wasn't, so having a Broadway number at the end didn't really fit. Also, now
Oh,
even the Doctor is talking about Susan Twist, the actor, I refuse to believe that's a coincidence.
It's not even a Broadway number. It's supposed to be the twist.
Yeah.
This ain't the
Well, yeah,
freaking
I,
twist. This
I
is
was
a
gonna.
pop number that sounds like garbage.
I mean, this felt like.
Literally, because this is also mine. I'm just gonna staple money on here. This is literally so awful to me. I skipped to the end part after the music. I hated it so much. I skipped it. Fuck that music number in particular.
It reminded me of a DreamWorks cartoon, the end of a DreamWorks movie.
I would rather watch any musical number from them.
I mean,
This was
it made me.
bull.
At least the choreography made me think of stuff that maybe would have been in movies at the time, but like those would usually
Give
be
me a real
one
twist
scene.
from the 60s that's pre-recorded on old film, and I will be a much happier man.
Yeah, like
This was modern pop junk, and you can take it and toss that right out the window. F you and your Miley Cyrus too.
I'll have to remind Matt that the Beatles at one point were considered pop.
Yes, but they were good pop. This was modern garbage again. No,
I mean, they could have
not
used
having it.
They could have used a Beatles song, or a Beatles
Yes.
more Beatles-like song.
Yeah.
The Beatles had a couple songs that were technically close to being a twist. Yes, by all means, it would have been closer. It would have been more effective.
If nothing else, I feel like this is. I don't know who did the song because I forgot to check, but this does feel like it might have been an idea to get someone who has a musical background, like specifically musicals background, and like ones that are set in that time period or has seen enough or analyze and whatever that could have wrote it.
Sure thought if you got something yet.
And I guess also it's an additional problem of like it might be also just a problem of Russell having written this one instead of handing it off to someone who has more of an in-depth knowledge of music, or that could have worked with.
Could have been
someone
something
who
to that
did.
effect. Yeah. Are you good?
Yep.
Because my final thought that just came up, because it's the Beatles and because they're not famous yet, that twist song, replace it with Love Me Do. Their first song, their biggest song, which, by the way, was re-released recently with their official final song.
And the funny thing is like if they'd moved the year up, it could have been All You Need Is Love. It could have been Hey Jude. Depending on the time
they were starting, but there's a lot of good numbers they could have had there, and it's just like you wasted it. You could have.
Yeah.
It would have been awesome to have all four of those actors, give them like a nice, prominent, good close look at them, and maybe a little bit of extra costume design to make sure they looked more like the boys at the time when they became popular, and give them a number to at least lip sync to. Or even give them a chance to actually sing legitimately to it too. You never know. Maybe they actually do have a little bit of skill as a group.
And the funny thing is like some people would probably argue, oh, it's Doctor Who. They wouldn't have the money to do that. The Sarah Jane Adventures had a snippet of a Beatles song in it, and that was a lower budget than Doctor Who. So
there's no reason, and especially when you are backed by Disney right now,
yeah,
you can't find Beatles money somewhere in the couch cushions, unless Disney really has had hard up for cash all of a sudden lately. You tell me, BBC.
Yeah, like I feel like the easiest way to explain away the musical number would have been that it coming off as more spontaneous. like
Instead
if
of there's
the
a fourth wall wink and it's just like,
yeah, and then just cutting straight to it. Like if it had been like the doctor just started singing what he was saying,
Oh yeah.
and then it's like, hang on, what the hell's going on here?
Spoiler
And then
alert.
it just
Yeah.
yeah, and then it happens, and then you come out of the end of it, and they're like, I guess that was an after effect of the maestro being gone. Okay. But otherwise, it's just a musical number. They play the zebra crossing like a piano and then leave. And it's like, okay, no explanation, I guess. We have to get RTD telling us after the fact.
Yeah, but spoiler alert,
Good.
Brave or Strange New Worlds actually did just that, where people just suddenly start singing. And then it's explained
Mm.
like midway through the episode what's going on and how they can fight it.
So
So
sort of like
See,
that,
at
like
least that's
Buffy
plot
episode
relevant.
then.
yeah, it's plot.
Yeah.
It's very plot relevant. So it doesn't just
Mm.
come out of nowhere. So
It's not
Yeah.
stable on a piece of
well,
garbage.
it does, but it makes sense to the plot. Yeah.
Uh, so, Aaron, do you have a different?
I do have a different
uh,
one.
what is it?
I also don't like the ending, but uh, for overall, but like the music battle with the cartoon notes was a little cringy. Like it just kind of
Yeah.
felt like it was It felt like it was artificially extending the episode.
Mm.
But I guess
Mm.
they needed something to happen that wasn't someone outside from the doctor, since he already confessed that he couldn't really fight it. He couldn't really
Mm.
fight them, the maestro, all that easily. Perhaps it meant that someone else needed to come and save them. That's led to the Beatles saving them too. So I
Yeah.
understand it, but like the battle itself with the cartoon notes was a little goofy. I really
Yeah.
don't know if you needed them. I get that the maestro uses notes to like string people up and everything, but did you
Mm.
actually need them in that fight? So it's a little kind
Yeah.
of nitpicky, but
Mm. And I will admit, that would have been a better way to introduce the Beatles being present, is
mm-hmm.
that they're involved in that,
Yeah,
and then they get like knocked back. So when the piano gets knocked away, the maestro is more focused on the Doctor and Ruby.
mm-hmm.
So you've got Paul and John can do what they end up doing,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like actually aware of what's going on.
Yeah, and they don't just stumble onto a piano with notes hanging over the top of it.
Yeah.
Especially in a
Mm.
world that is supposed to be so blah, you would think
Mm.
that they would be freaked out, because I doubt that drugs exist in that world. It'd be
Well,
too much like music or something, too much like a looseness of the soul, I guess.
mm.
Mm.
I mean, I could see drugs existing with them just being like maybe more downers than uppers.
Yeah.
I don't want to go on anymore. I'm so depressed.
God.
Uh,
When you think about it.
But that's it for me. That was mine, so.
uh,
Another
yeah.
Marvin the Martian quote. Marvin the
Mic
robot
off.
quotes.
So Matt, do you have a backup since Bill took
No, like I
yours?
said, I still put mine on the Bills. Just my absolute
Yeah,
passionate loathing of that musical number. It's like, oh,
yeah.
I'm still interested in watching the movie He's Singing in the Rain just because of its artistic qualities and not just because it's a
Mm,
musical. But even then, I'm willing to sit there and take that musical, and if nothing else, to also find here Singing in the Rain, the song in its entirety for a
mm.
change. Because I've only ever seen tidbits of it. I'm like, oh, for crying out loud. So
um,
but yeah, that's it. That musical number just
Mic on.
By the way, Singing in the Rain is actually a really good movie. I have seen it.
See, I want to still see it. I got it from my mother for Mother's Day.
okay, so for me, my least favorite scene, it kind of came up earlier, with Bill's least favorite aspect. But yeah, I'm going to jump onto the whole um thing after the maestro is summoned And then there's the immediate getting the pronouns wrong, misgendering shit. For fuck's sake, Russell. You dead named a trans woman in the fucking God, what was it called again? The first of the 60th
Yeah, the
specials.
first special. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and then you do this. Please knock it off. Like,
Mic off.
I get it. I know that Jinx Monsoon is non-binary. So am I. So knock this shit off. I'm telling you. Like, don't do that again. Or we will have words. Like, just don't. I'm sick of it.
Mic
I
on.
don't need scenes like that in
Are we
Doctor
gonna
Who.
have to? Are we
Thank
gonna
you very
have
much.
to get a GoFundMe for Alex to fly over to the UK to give RTD a good pounding into the dirt for constantly doing this kind of shit?
Because, like, again, it's like, again, with the bringing up the pronouns thing in that story with the meat, I was fine with it because it made sense for Rose to bring it up. But in this, like, I didn't need that. I didn't need this guy assuming that the maestro is a man in drag or this, that, the other. Didn't need it.
And this
Didn't
the
need it
BBC
at all.
this
Especially
the
because the
BBC.
maestro, yeah, especially because the maestro is a again, otherworldly entity. You could have just
Technically,
ignored
it's not
that.
any of them. It's an anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
Like, you didn't need to bring it up. Like,
mhm.
for all we know, Jinx Monsoon could have been playing a woman rather than a non-binary character or this, that, whatever.
Mhm.
Like, it didn't need to come up, so you're just misgendering a character for the sake of bringing up pronouns. You do not need to do that, Russell. Please stop, or I will punch you in the face.
This
Like,
UK news: an Aussie trans person has come to the UK and has beaten a UK showrunner into the dirt after several minutes of curb stomping.
like,
The only quote we could get was "F you and your misgendering."
Well, so specifically, what happened is the victim at the beginning of the episode refers to Jinx Monsoon's character, the Maestro, as she, like, or lady or woman or something like that.
Actually, didn't they do a him too?
yeah, there was a him
well, the
first.
Harbinger, Henry or whatever,
Yeah,
Harbinger.
Harry Albinger, Harbinger.
Yeah, he's like, that's my father.
Yeah, but also there's like the music teacher is also like, get away from that man or that thing or etc etc, and I'm just like, I don't need this, Russell. I don't need this in my Doctor Who, thank you. Like,
you kind of almost cheer on the victim being killed, but at the same time you look at what the time and place that this was all happening, so it's just like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
like, yeah, it was unnecessary. Like, it's
Either
the
way,
same.
it's just not unnecessary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the same thing as like with Rose being dead named. You didn't need to do that. We know she's trans. We know she cops shit for being trans. I didn't need that in my fiction. I didn't need that in my escapist fiction. Thank you very much.
Wait,
Like,
Rose was
they could have been
trans?
heckling her. They could have
Rose
been
Donna's
heckling.
daughter. Yeah.
Yeah,
Donna's
Donna's
daughter
daughter Rose's.
is a trans?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I did not know that. Like, I
Like,
just
portrayed by
again,
a trans actress, and the character
Oh,
is
I was
canonically
wondering why
trans
she
as
was
well.
so tall. Oh, I feel stupid now. Like, cause like I thought it was just, not exactly feminine woman, but I thought it was natural woman, or like,
Well, one of the
biological.
scenes as she's walking with Donna is kids riding by on bikes and calling her by her dead name,
I didn't
Yeah.
even notice that. Holy cow.
which is why Donna
Mm.
gets suddenly very agitated.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I
I
was
went off
I
on a
remember
rant.
this. Yeah, I remember the scene, but I didn't I just thought Donna was like getting mad at cheeky kids on bikes. I didn't realize that they were dead naming her daughter. Holy
Yeah.
crap.
Mm,
That makes so
yeah.
much more sense. I'm like, why is Donna's daughter so tall? She doesn't come off as like a 19, someone, a teenager or something. She looks a little bit older
Mm,
on that. So that makes a lot more sense. That went right over my head. So I
mm.
apologize for that.
That's all right.
No,
I mean, it
no. I
happens.
mean, if it happened to pass you by, it happened to pass you by. It was
Mm-hmm.
to be
Mm,
fair, a rather quick moment, but it was still an obnoxious moment for some people.
mm. Um, in that sense, moving on from that rant to final thoughts.
Got a couple of them out tonight, didn't we?
Yeah. So final thoughts for the Devil's Chord. First up, we have Bills. Interesting to see the Maestro as a Toymaker's child. It was an interesting twist that could be used sometime down the line. This episode had a few missteps, but it was solid, focusing on a story about music. I could see this being played in junior high music classes for years to come.
A bit of
Aaron, your
high hope
final
there.
thoughts.
uh, Final thoughts. Of course, we see Twist show up in the cafeteria with the doctor complaining about the price of coffee. I'm kind of wondering who the oldest one is, because the Maestro
Hmm.
mentions the oldest one as
Yeah, the
well,
one
as
who
well as the
waits.
one who waits. But are they two separate entities, or are they the same entity?
Same entity,
Hmm.
different names. You never know. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like the fact that there's a reference to the giggle. Like the doctor knows immediately that's the giggle. We need to get out of here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and as well, like the maestro kind of fits in with the toy makers pantheon in that they are as well not just an all-powerful being, but also very flamboyant, very kind of interesting and quirky, and with kind of these crazy powers and stuff too. So, and actually, I found them pretty intimidating too, as a villain.
Hmm.
You know, when they yell and everything, they're kind of like the Joker when they yell. They're like, oh man, shit just got serious.
Hmm.
I may pooped a little.
Yeah.
I pooped out my butthole.
All right, that's it for me though.
Okay, so Matt, final thoughts.
Well, thoughts. There's a lot of really good ideas with this story. Sadly, I feel like a lot of them were let down. There's so much more we could have done, especially since
Mic
we
off.
literally recast the entire Beatles. We could have had them on for a lot more than just a quick cameo and one or two talking points. Um, I like the idea of the maestro. I don't necessarily like how it played out in this episode. Maybe if you bring it down a little more, play it a little more serious, a few little more milder moments, I can maybe get into the swing of the character a bit more. But as
Mm.
over the top as it was just like it was started to reach gratiating points. And also, again, that musical number at the end pissed me off and annoyed me so much. I literally skipped a section of the episode to get to the like keyboard walkway thing.
Mm.
And it's just like, okay, it's still stupid, but whatever, keep going. It's less obnoxious than that music number was.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, there's some stuff to like, especially a lot of the acting and I thought the background music was really good in this one too. And again, bringing up Ruby's background with music, it was a good idea, which also helped further the plot. It's just that there's so many dropped balls. It's actually is kind of upsetting. But that's my thoughts.
Hmm. Okay, so my thoughts are that I still prefer this to Space Babies. Like, there are some things that do kind of bug me here and there. Most of the rest of it I can just kind of go with. Um, I do like that this isn't just, while, the idea is a child of the toy maker, they're not literally just the toy maker again, but a different theme.
A
Like
different theme, yeah.
there are distinct performances. Um So, which I mean, to be fair, you got two very different actors, so you were bound to get two different performances. But
Mhm.
I'm definitely glad that Jinx Monsoon is not being told just be like Neil Patrick Harris was being,
Yeah.
because like that would not have
Mic on.
worked at all. Um,
They
and
have
like
to, yeah,
again,
they have to have the character go about it its own way, but it still was a little too off the rails for me, and I'm sure for some people too. But anyway,
yeah, like I can definitely understand that some people might not have been keen on the performance, but I was fine with it. There were like bits and pieces where I was like, yeah, that probably would have been better if you dialed it down. But otherwise, yeah, I was relatively okay with this one. It's good. It could have been better. I absolutely do think this should have been handed to someone else other than Russell. Because he's doing 6 out of the 8 episodes, and I don't agree with that. Uh, but yeah, for what we got, it was
Russell, you quit last time because you were burning out.
Yeah.
I do have a question. So, did they get rid of the whole writers' room thing that they were going to try when they hired Chibnall on?
Yeah, that's just completely gone because it's not
Might
being
have
run
been,
by the
yeah.
BBC anymore. It's just being run by Bad Wolf. So I'm
Okay.
not sure what's going on with the writing room.
Oh.
Yeah, like I don't think we know particularly. I think it's just going back to how Russell used to do it, where he just get writers in for stuff here and there. Um, so in any case, moving on to ratings for the Devil's Chord. Bill has given it a 4. It's a bit under episode 1, so we'll round it down to a 4.0. Aaron, what's your score?
Hmm. There's a lot of stuff that I don't like, but there's also a lot of stuff that I actually really liked. I also forgot to mention the costumes. I like the costuming. I thought that was really well done. And, the old cars and everything, they made an effort to make it look like you were at least, or feel like you were in the 60s. Especially in, like, the
Yeah.
cafeteria and stuff.
Hmm.
Gosh. I'm gonna be kicking myself, maybe, for giving it such a high score, but I really did enjoy this episode, so I'm gonna give it a 4.5.
4.5 from Aaron.
Hmm.
Matt.
Yeah, this one gave me the exact opposite feelings, especially towards the end. This one gets a 3 out of me. This one, like, ah.
Oh. So 3.0 from Matt.
Mhm.
And I am going to agree with Bill. I like this more than Space Babies, but it wasn't enough to really get it higher than a 4.0 for me. Which, funnily enough, despite the fact that
Same
the
rating.
scores were different, the rating is exactly the same as the Space
Oy.
Baby. I don't know if we've ever managed that before. At least it's probably been a while anyway, where it wasn't just a round number twice in a row. So yeah, Devil's Chord 3.88 as well, which again puts it on par with Space Babies and hell, I already read all the other ones off, so you know. But that would put it also around. Oh god, whereabouts was that again? So that puts it also around somewhere to the effect of being around either 261 or 262 out of 471 things reviewed.